Your life is shaped by the people you choose to have around you. The ancient Stoics understood well the power of friendship and warned against those who could drag us down. Our social circle is an extension of who we are, influencing us more than we might realize. The great philosopher Epictetus once said, "Associate with those who can uplift you, those whose presence brings out your best qualities." You've probably heard the saying that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Today, we're going to explore this idea through the lens of Stoicism. We'll discuss 7 types of people who can hinder your progress in Stoic philosophy and why it's crucial to rethink your relationships with them. Before we begin, I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel to help spread this knowledge. Also, don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any new videos. First type, the complainer. The first type of person you should avoid is the complainer. We all have that friend, family member, or co-worker who always finds fault in everything. Whether it's the weather, work, or even the food at a popular restaurant, they never miss an opportunity to express their dissatisfaction. Ignoring these people can be difficult, but the constant impact of such negativity can damage your mental state. It's like a leaky faucet that never stops, slowly draining your energy. Imagine you're working on a project with someone who complains all the time. Every meeting becomes an exhausting experience, team morale drops, and you find yourself distracted from seeking effective solutions. Over time, you become increasingly frustrated, both with the project and life in general. But how can Stoicism help you deal with complainers? There are a few strategies you can use. First, avoid this person whenever possible. If that's not feasible, for instance, if they're a family member or co-worker, the second option is to mentally distance yourself during their complaints. Treat their grievances like a passing storm, loud and annoying but ultimately temporary and powerless against the steadfast mountain that is your inner peace. Second type, the trouble magnet. The second type of person you should avoid is the trouble magnet. This person always seems to be at the center of a whirlwind of crises, conflicts, and controversies. And like a vortex, they have an unsettling ability to suck away your energy. At first, you might mistake this intensity for passion or excitement. But soon, you realize that being around them is like navigating a ship through a storm, exhausting and dangerous. These individuals make everything more complicated, and their problems often become yours. Their chaos is contagious, and you may find yourself involved in conflicts that initially had nothing to do with you. A practical example. You have a friend who is always in conflict with someone. Today, they're not speaking to one friend. Tomorrow, it's another. They seek your advice, but you notice that this cycle never ends. Suddenly, you find yourself entangled in the same mess. One way to deal with this is by practicing reflective listening. Instead of giving advice or taking sides, repeat the person's words back to them. For example, if they say, "I can't believe she said that about me," you might respond, "So you feel betrayed by her words." This technique allows you to offer emotional support without getting involved in the drama. Another approach is to make yourself deliberately unavailable for other people's crises, especially those that seem to have no resolution. Disconnect from your phone at certain times. Create periods of personal focus and make it clear that you should not be disturbed during these moments. Third type, the skeptic. The third type of person to avoid is the skeptic. Imagine you are an artist painting a canvas. Each brushstroke adds color, depth, and life to your vision. But then the skeptic enters your studio, glances at your work, and immediately begins to criticize. "Are you sure about that color? It doesn't look realistic. You know most artists never make it right." Their words are like strokes of gray paint, dulling your vibrant canvas. Suppose you want to start a new career. You've done your research, talked to professionals in the field, and perhaps even taken some preliminary courses. When you share your enthusiasm with the skeptic, they quickly say, "You don't have the necessary skills. What if you fail?" Soon, their doubts begin to feel like your own, and the confidence you once had starts to waver. But how do you deal with skeptics, especially if they're close to you? An unconventional yet effective approach is to ask them for advice, rather than simply sharing your plans or ambitions. By seeking their counsel, they're less likely to directly criticize your ideas and may offer more constructive feedback. Another strategy is to flip the script using a technique called positive confrontation. Instead of absorbing the negativity, ask them to think of solutions. If they say, "You'll never be able to change careers now," respond with, "Who do you think has successfully changed careers?" This not only shifts the focus away from negativity, but also encourages a more constructive conversation. Fourth type, the eternal victim. The fourth type of person to avoid is the eternal victim. Imagine life as a chess game where each player has the same pieces and the same goal: to checkmate the opponent's king. You think strategically, make sacrifices, and take risks. But the eternal victim blames the board, the pieces, or even the opponent for every unsuccessful move. In their eyes, they're always in checkmate, not because of their choices, but because of external forces working against them. While it's important to acknowledge that some people truly face difficulties and systemic issues, the eternal victims we're talking about use their hardships as a constant excuse, refusing to take responsibility for their actions, or lack thereof. Listen to them, but resist the urge to become the solver of all their problems. Fifth type, the toxic positivist. The fifth type of person to avoid is the toxic positivist. You know the type. They're always radiating optimism, as if nothing in the world could go wrong. They're the ones who tell you to just be happy when you're going through a tough time, dismissing any emotional complexity with a wave of superficial optimism. Imagine your life as a garden. There are flowers, but there are also weeds and pests. The toxic positivist insists that you ignore anything that isn't a blooming rose. If there are aphids on your leaves, they tell you to focus on the flowers and not let negativity invade your garden. Sixth type, the manipulator. The sixth type of person you should avoid is the manipulator. Think of your life as a movie where you are the protagonist. You have a clear vision of how you want the story to unfold, the highs and lows, the moments of victory, the challenges overcome, and of course, the happy ending. However, the manipulator is like that shadowy producer who, without you realizing it, begins to rewrite your script, subtly but decisively altering the direction of the plot. The manipulator is a master of maneuvering your emotions and thoughts to serve their own interests. They might use flattery, guilt, or even deception to guide you into acting in a way that benefits them. For example, imagine you have a friend who always manages to convince you to pay for dinner. They say something like, "You know, I've had a tough month and you're doing so well. It's nothing to you, but it would make a big difference to me." Over time, you realize that the generosity that should have been spontaneous has become almost an obligation, imposed by an emotional game the manipulator plays expertly. Dealing with manipulators can be challenging, but it's possible to protect yourself. One effective technique is what some experts call the reflective mirror. This means you agree with the truth in the manipulator's statements, but refuse to yield to emotional pressure. If they say, for example, that you're doing well and should pay for dinner, you can respond with, "You're right, I'm doing well, but let's split the bill as we usually do." By doing this, you assert your position calmly and firmly, keeping control of the situation. Another strategy is to establish clear boundaries from the start. Manipulators often test others' limits to see how far they can go. If they ask to borrow money or try to get you to commit to something that makes you uncomfortable, practice using a simple but powerful word: no. Say no calmly but assertively, and offer support in another way if appropriate. I can't lend you money, but I'm here to support you in other ways. By setting these boundaries, you preserve your integrity and prevent the manipulator from taking advantage of you. Remember, life is your movie, and the script should be written by you. Allowing someone else to take the reins and manipulate your story is to abdicate your leading role. When you realize a manipulator has entered the scene, take back the pen that writes your destiny. Be mindful of the small deviations that can take you off the path you want to follow, and reaffirm your control over the narrative of your life. Seventh type, the time vampire. The seventh type of person you should avoid is the time vampire. Imagine your daily routine as a carefully planned symphony. Every task, every commitment is an instrument that, together, create a harmonious melody. But then the time vampire appears, a presence that interrupts this melody, challenging the natural rhythm of your day. They show up when you least expect it, sucking away your energy and diverting your focus, leaving you exhausted and with no time for what really matters. Time vampires are those who always seem to need your attention, but rarely offer anything in return. Maybe it's that colleague who constantly interrupts your concentration at work with trivial questions, or a friend who calls for long, aimless conversations, distracting you from important tasks. They drain your energy, undermine your productivity, and by the end of the day, you realize your time has been wasted with nothing significant accomplished. How can you protect yourself from these time suckers? The first strategy is to set clear boundaries and communicate them politely but firmly. When someone tries to invade your work or rest time, gently inform them of your priorities and the need for focus. For example, you might say, "I'd love to chat, but I need to finish this task right now. Can we schedule a time to talk later?" By setting these barriers, you make it clear that your time is valuable and that you can't allow it to be wasted. Another strategy is to make interactions with these people more efficient. If a friend tends to call for long, time-consuming conversations, suggest switching to text messages or emails for shorter, more direct communication. This not only saves you time, but also keeps the friendship intact without the burden of long and often unproductive conversations. If it's a colleague who constantly distracts you, consider suggesting quick, scheduled meetings to address issues all at once, rather than dealing with frequent interruptions throughout the day. The Stoics teach us to value time and use it wisely. In their words, time is the only resource we cannot recover once lost. So it's essential that you protect your time from distractions and unjustified demands. Remember, it's not about having little time, but about how we use the time we have. With discipline and focus, you can regain control over your routine and ensure that each moment is spent in line with your values and goals. Protecting yourself from negative influences in your life is a crucial part of personal growth and the practice of Stoicism. By identifying and avoiding the 7 types of people we discussed today, the complainer, the trouble magnet, the skeptic, the eternal victim, the toxic positivist, the manipulator, and the time vampire, you create a healthier and more conducive environment for your development. Surrounding yourself with people who share similar values and uplift you is fundamental to maintaining your inner peace and advancing on your Stoic path. By distancing yourself from those who drain your energy and undermine your progress, you can focus on what truly matters, guiding your life with wisdom, courage, and integrity. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Which of these 7 types of people have you encountered in your life? And how did it impact your journey? Share your experience in the comments. Your story could be an inspiration to many others. Thank you for watching. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Your support is crucial as we continue our journey of exploring Stoic philosophy. Together, Let's build a community of people striving for wisdom, courage, and a life well lived.